Yes, we do this daily show 7 days a week, which means, yes, we do it on Saturdays as well. A couple other things we do on this channel on Saturday is first at 8 a.m. I will be doing a live Q&A for my YouTube audience. If you have ever wanted to ask me a question, I will be doing that live. I do that from my computer right there, and we interact as an audience. I do have a list of questions that I've collected over the week, so I will start with those. But my hope is we go for 45 to 60 minutes, and so far, I've been able to answer all the questions that were proposed. So if you want to stick around and be on that call at 8 o'clock, I will do another live stream. Just start talking at 8 o'clock and we will see where it goes. And then something else I do at 9 o'clock, again, just for my students, is I go over to our Facebook group. The Facebook group is called One Rental at a Time Works. And we do some very kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know, mentoring or more questions, but it's just us, right? It's just the students. Usually Saturday mornings at 9. It's about 25 to 30 folks, but they are recorded. They are in the Facebook group, so you can always go back and watch them later, which is pretty awesome. So, again, Saturdays, I look at Saturday mornings as just another day to give back, another day to help. Hopefully, you enjoy them. If you like your daily financial news about what is really going on, subscribe because I don't do clickbait. I don't try to trick the YouTube algorithm. I I'm under the mindset if you just keep moving forward, good things will eventually happen. So that's what I'm doing. Do me a favor, subscribe, like button, comment, interact, all that good stuff. So first and foremost, again, lots of talk about the stimulus. I want all of us to stop calling it stimulus. I really do think it's life support. I think we need to call it what it is. I think life support, economic life support, should be focused. There is no question we have a percentage, and it's larger than you or I would want, that are truly struggling. 2020 will be a year for lots of families to unfortunately remember. I've shared my history as I don't know, I don't even think I was a teenager yet, that I can still go back to that were just rough. For me, that was in the 80s when the Silicon Valley was not yet the valley and my father was unemployed for 9 months or something. All I can say is yuck. Wouldn't wish that on anyone. But unfortunately, that's happening today. And Congress is choosing politics over the American public, in my opinion. First off, we need term limits. None of this nonsense career politicians. Yeah, I'm not going to go down a political rant, but let's just say they're not doing their job. Gross negligence, as far as I'm concerned. But again, they bought 2 days of 2 days to fund the government to get to agreement. I think it's fairly obvious that an agreement's coming. I think everybody, including all sides, believe that something's absolutely required. So hopefully some good news on Sunday. Yeah, let's just put it out there. Let's put some good karma out there, and let's say the stimulus gets done. I think help is coming. Next up, again, some of this stuff we can all see coming, right? Pfizer was approved for emergency use last week, I think, last Friday, maybe last Saturday. Lo and behold, Moderna is approved this week. Again, anybody surprised? We saw this coming. The more and more of these that get approved, the more and more quantities will get produced. And again, the American public, the world, will have the options to take it or not. So, it is coming. We are closer to the end than the beginning. That doesn't mean that there isn't dark days ahead of us. We are in the darkest of dark days. Specifically, if you're in California, some really scary numbers are coming out, specifically in Central Valley and in Southern California. Just on a personal note, right, my team in the Central Valley have been directly impacted by this. First, my property manager, who does a lot of my communications, family got it, including her. She's doing okay, right? She's getting out of it, out of the, what do you call it, quarantine. shortly. I talk to her a couple of times a week. And now my main contractor, him and his wife have it as well. So again, this didn't really impact lots of us in the first crisis unless you were kind of northeast, in my opinion. But it is across the country now. It is all over my Facebook feed of people I know across the country that have been impacted by this. So stop the nonsense about it not being real. I mean, that's just crazy. So, yeah, it's real. And again, we're going to have some choices to make as individuals going forward. Whether you take it or not, that is on you. But, you know, it should be available to all of us if you want to take it. What do you want to call it? April of next year? And that kind of puts the end to this this horrible 14, 15-month event we've all gotten through. So, yeah. Next up, what do we got? Oh, Shark Tank. Shark Tank was asked what books they are giving away for this. So, you know, what books are given away? First is the 4-Hour Work Week. I actually haven't read that book. I said that orange book with a picture of, I think it's Tim Ferriss wrote that book. I haven't read that book. Maybe I should. Another one I thought was interesting was Ride of Your Life, about my 12-year journey being Disney CEO. That one's a relatively new book. I might want to check that one out. And then, of course, you got the How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. I think I've read that book a dozen times. I think all these are good recommendations. But I have a question for you. How many of you are giving this wonderful book away for Christmas? Just curious. Stocking stuffer maybe. Giving it to high school kids, college kids, family members, friends. Maybe you're in real estate or insurance and you want to give it away to clients. I'm just curious. Obviously self-promotion, but I'm curious who would be, who's giving it away for Christmas. Just like to know. Next up, big news for me, or no, I thought it was really big news, is banks have been approved to start stock buybacks. That happened on Friday. Right, the banks went through another stress test. This is the second stress test of 2020. And they've all been approved to start buying back stock. To me, this is a huge, huge signal that the powers that be see this crisis really close to the end. And probably most importantly, they do not see the residential real estate crisis of the last Great Recession. This is J.P. Morgan, right? Let's remember what happened with J.P. Morgan earlier in the year. Remember the first stress test that came out? I think it was in April. And the Fed basically said, oh gosh, watch out. Cut your dividends. You can't buy back stock. Cease and desist. JP Morgan's no dope. I would call them, you know, them and Goldman, the smartest sort of on the street. But JP Morgan publicly said, basically started to ratchet down on credit. I think they were talked about 3 times within a 4-week period about them getting tighter on lending. They basically got out of the mortgage game, new origination game, except for the most pristine of credit. So they basically, I don't want to say stopped lending, but they certainly slowed their order book. That allowed them to build cash, right? They weren't putting it out there. And now, lo and behold, I forgot one thing. They also did a huge reserve for bad debt. I think it was $5 billion, right? So now they've stopped new lending. Now we're to the end of this. They see a light at the end of the tunnel. They don't really have a huge new origination book. Now they have this huge reserve. And now they can start buying back stock. Way back when, I actually said, and we could go find it, I don't know what day it was, but I talked about, I wonder if these banks are over-reserved. Because when you do these reserves, and I was an accountant at a Fortune 500 company first couple of years out of school, you can do a reserve, best intentions, but you can actually over-reserve. And you can put together the variables and really make it a fat over-reserve so that when you want to, you can undo some of those variables and put some of that money back on your balance sheet. Pretty cool way to manage the books, earnings per share, don't you think? So that is going to be interesting to see how many banks were over aggressive on their variables and over reserved, and watch them unwind that the next 12 to 18 months. It's going to be pretty interesting. As expected, Tesla popped yesterday, right? They were added to the S&P 500. I think it's going to be interesting to watch them on Monday. I don't know why, but part of me thinks Friday's pop was all sugar high and not really fundamentals. It was just people had to buy because they had to buy. I wonder if there's a give back on Monday. I don't know. Again, it's hard to say. Tesla is the largest company added to the S&P 500. So maybe not. Maybe more people will come out and buy it. But it just didn't feel real, really. And then we had Nike that reported after hours on a Friday. That's pretty unusual. I don't remember many companies reporting on Fridays. But they beat top and bottom. Strong digital growth, 84%. What I thought was most interesting and just a sign of what's going on in the world economy, China up 24%. North America, 1%. That's different. And again, if this was a company that was a Chinese-based company, you and I can argue the data's dirty, the data's ugly, but do we really think Nike is managing the numbers? Do you think Nike really cares that it says 24% in China and 1% North America? No, it's not what they're doing. The second largest economy, which is China, is, for all intents and purposes, nearly back to normal. And we in North America, which it's pretty clear we are not. So pretty interesting. And then I have a question for you. I'm starting to see lots and lots of people talk about 2021. I have now started to see where about a month ago, a lot of the stuff in my feed was talking 2021 crash for real estate. You obviously know where I come out on that. It's not in the cards, maybe later, but not 2021. Now I'm starting to see stock market crash 2021 videos. So I'm just curious, what do you think? We got to define crash. So let's call crash 30% or greater. What do you think is more likely in 2021? A real estate crash of 30%, call it nationally, or a stock market crash of 30%? What do you think? And then lastly, one of the things we need to appreciate, at least that I'm going to be watching out for, with Janet Yellen coming in to her position, is she is what they call a labor economist. And I think I've shared this before. My undergrad degree is economics. So I've studied, a lot of those kind of different, trickle down and supply demand and elasticity and all of that stuff. And one of the things that I could say is a concern of mine with a labor economist is you can over pivot on your focus on a single variable. The US economy is never that simple. But this is what I mean. So when I was, I'll call it growing up, right? Full employment was often thought to be 6%. Why? Rule of thumb was written down once and everybody started repeating it. So 6%. 2019, we got down to 3.5%. So how do you go from full employment at 6 down to 3.5? Well, people now are starting to talk about, 3.5% is full employment. So where I'm going with this is if you orient yourself on unemployment and you stay sort of focused on that and not realize that, that last 2.5% from 6 to 3.5 is hard, not normal, you could really see inflation get ahead of itself. I believe, inflation is that long talked about boogeyman. We really haven't experienced it since the 70s. It's out there, though, I believe. And if we are not careful with the trillions of dollars of money supply that we are printing, with the asset bubbles we have created, with what I believe is going to be a GDP growth in 2021, if we stay oriented on unemployment for too long, inflation can get ahead of itself. And I think inflation is very dangerous, in my opinion. So that's what I got for you. Again, daily financial news, 7 days a week. We just talk about what's going on. No clickbait, no YouTube algorithm nonsense. I don't even know how that stuff works. If you like that, hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up. And again, remember, in about 14 minutes, we will do live Q&A. That's always fun. Enjoy. Have a great Saturday. Bye-bye.